We're going to be talking about the Gay affair.
And mind you, it's not my first romance novel. It's not a romance novel.
That's for sure. Okay, so we're going to be talking about Claudine Gay, who eventually became president of Harvard and was the subject of a lot of controversy, even independent of what we're going to be speaking about here, because she, let's just say, performed very badly in relation to the anti-Semitic activities that were going on at Harvard in 2023, 2024. But tell me, what did you know about Claudine Gay before all these controversies?
I had heard of Claudine Gay before I left Princeton in the late 1990s. And for myself, when I published my first book, Black Faces, Black Interests, I got lots of attention for that. That was, everyone loved me. But I started falling out of favor in that I questioned race-based affirmative action. I thought it should be means tested, race neutral, and that was not a popular thing to say. We had just had Bourne and Locke write the book, The Shape of the River, where they argued that you had to have race-based affirmative action or there'd be no black leaders, and all the black leaders came because of affirmative action. My direction was moving away from that, and so I was falling out of favor. And then with Black Faces, Black Interests, the left did not like that book, and I was attacked from some progressive whites as well as blacks. And I started hearing about this brilliant black woman at Harvard University, this brilliant student named Claudine Gay. And, it's just like, I heard so much about it, it was as if her first name was Brilliant. That's all I heard. And the human part of me didn't want to hear about this brilliant new person.
So why was that?
I felt like it was kind of being thrown up at me because she did quantitative research, I did qualitative research, and so all of a sudden there was
competition.
There was a new kid in town, and so right, okay. I'm not proud of the fact that I was not so interested, but around that time I had become very disillusioned with parts of academia. Mm-hmm. It was just like the reality part. Like when I started moving in a different direction, questioning things, I saw that the people that loved me for Black Faces, Black Interests, they loved me as long as I was on board with them. Mm. But once you start pulling away, and so I had heard of her, and I may have met her at a conference, but I don't remember meeting her. And then I left Princeton, and my research shifted to another area. So I didn't pay attention to what was taking place with congressional representation and black congressional representation. I totally shifted my research, and so I was stunned December 2023, I think, when I learned that she had plagiarized my dissertation 25 years ago.
Right, so I want to get into this because I find this really, really interesting. Is it the case that there were a couple of investigators, perhaps triggered by the controversy of what Gay was doing in relation to the student protests at that time, that triggered an investigation, or was it completely independent of that?
Well, things came together in a way that benefited those researchers, because it's my understanding that the rumors had been around for years about her research. And after she gave the disastrous testimony before Congress, I think they saw that.
So this was just, in case people aren't aware, this was the disastrous testimony in relation to her
how
response
Harvard was
to
responding to the anti-Semitism on the Harvard campus. Yeah. When there were not just Jewish students but faculty and staff members who were complaining about
intimidation threats,
even physical threats, and so I think that everything came together in a way that people were ready to hear it. But even before that, before her testimony, the New York Post had tried to talk with Harvard about the allegations, and Harvard responded with its lawyers and threatened to sue them. And so they backed away. So it really took Chris Rufo and Aaron Burnett and people, and it was Chris Silberman, I believe. It took those people being brave to step out there, because when you're fighting Harvard, you're fighting a university that has an over $50 billion endowment. I think that it was like the perfect storm as far as against her, because the people that had been trying to be heard about the allegations, and they were just pushing them away, and people were afraid of Harvard, and they didn't want to get sued, and no one wants to get sued. I think that at that point, it was just the opportune time to be heard.
So give us some details about the, what the plagiarism was, because it wasn't just your work, was it?
She plagiarized copious amounts of people who agreed with her, and so one reason I wrote the book, The Gay Affair, and it has the side by side, is in the case of my work, there's only maybe 5 instances where she took material. And it's not like large amounts of material, but my thing is there would not have been a dissertation on that topic or 3 articles she wrote had it not been for my work, and that she did not cite, well, she set up a straw man using my work, and she did not cite me as she advanced her career around challenging my book, Black Faces, Black Interests. And so that was that's my contention, is that her whole thesis is taken from ideas in my book. And I believe that the progressive faculty members at Harvard, there's no way that they didn't know about my work, because it had such an impact. And I won all those national prizes, so there's no way that they could not have known that what she was doing. And so why didn't her committee notice?
So your contention basically is that she should never have even been awarded the PhD in the first place.
Right. And here's the thing too, is she doesn't have a real literature review in her dissertation. And it's interesting, she keeps in her dissertation, she refers to it as her book, my book. And it's just pretty clear that, I think because her first name was Brilliant, no one looked closely at her work. That's one thing. But the other thing is, because my thesis was conservative, I believe that the left needed someone to counter me. And so they, of course, I think that she was the perfect person to carry that message forward. And maybe that's part of why she rose to the rank she did at Harvard, because she came down really hard on people who were minorities that were more conservative than she was. And so she, it's been my experience that when white people want to get at black people, they elevate one from that group to be the person to carry out the execution.
The problem was, as I understand it, that the laws relating to sort of plagiarism and copyright make it extremely difficult to sue on the basis of this type of plagiarism. And didn't they sort of invent their own sort of word for, instead of calling it plagiarism, what was it, they used something that was
duplicative language without attribution. Duplicative language without attribution. The copyright laws are not set up to deal with academia, and ideas are not copyrighted. So you can't copyright ideas. And under copyright law, if you sue an institution and you lose, you have to pay their legal fees. And I was willing to risk going forward and losing, and if it had been capped at 50,000 or even 100,000, but there's no cap really, and so that was my risk. And it really
there was no Elon Musk at that point to come in and pay your legal fees, for sure.
Well, the other part of it was that under the best of circumstances, my lawyers were telling me it would take between $100,000 and $250,000 just to do the case, and they thought that presented with the evidence that Harvard would settle, they don't settle,
Right,
especially
yeah.
not with people like me. And so they came back, guns blaring.
Right.
They said it would be a frivolous lawsuit, and I could be responsible for the legal fees. And then I had a friend that I mentioned in the book that took me out to lunch. He was a Vanderbilt University law professor, Jim Blumstein, and he told me he was really worried, and that my going up against Harvard was sort of like Hamas going up against Israel. He said, you don't pick a fight with someone who can wipe you out. And that was, he said, find another way. And my book is the other way.
Yeah, and a much better way, I think, as well. So